Okay, Dad, let's start at the beginning. It's 1958. You're a staff director at WNBC in New York, and you get a call for a special assignment. What was it?
Well, I went upstairs, and they said, Mike, we've picked you to go to Moscow to build a studio to show the Russians, the Soviets, the new innovation in television, color television. You're going to build a studio and in Sokolniki Park, about 20 miles outside of Moscow.
And what did you say?
I said, what? We built a whole studio, then we took it apart. We added 2 color cameras, all the controls necessary, the color mixers, what have you, and we shipped it to Helsinki, Finland, and then from Helsinki, overland to Moscow, Sokolniki Park, and there we reassembled everything for opening day. I was there to show American life, American culture, what makes America the wonderful place that it is. There were about 30 different exhibits of everything from food to art to clothing to children's games.
Did you ever think, why did they want to show how advanced America was compared to the Russians?
You know, we never thought about that. We really thought exclusively about showing how advanced America is, right, that it was moving forward. Color television was it, and this is what they were going to see.
Right.
And they were very anxious.
This was a big deal. People have to remember, 1958, everyone watched television on black and white TV.
This was the first, since the creation of black and white television, this was the first advance,
right,
really.
In Moscow, and there you are doing this.
And there we are, in prime time.
Okay.
Prime time in Moscow.
In Moscow.
We had an intern who took the time to translate American cowboy songs into Russian.
No way.
And he had a 15-minute show every night,
right,
prime time,
right,
playing guitar and singing in Russian, Home on the Range.
Oh my God.
It was a huge hit. They didn't know what they were hearing, but it was a huge hit.
We should also point out that you're a young couple, you're only married a couple of months.
Yeah.
Now, do you know that Mom is pregnant with me at this point?
We consulted a doctor before we left the United States. Yes, he said it was okay.
To go. Right.
You were who we were talking about. Well, on that day, we all kind of knew that Nixon and Khruschev were around. They had gone from one exhibit to another, and they were in one of the food exhibits.
For both of us to benefit. You see, you never concede anything.
That's where the term kitchen debate came from.
Right.
Because they started the argument in a kitchen.
Right.
And then they came towards the studio.
Right.
I didn't know when they were going to go in, but what I did not want to do was get them in, put them on stage, slate it, open the mics, cue them to begin. So I said, let's start the tapes now. They weren't even at the studio. So as they were walking in, we were already recording.
There are some instances where you may be ahead of us. For example, in the development of the thrust of your rockets for the investigation of outer space. There may be some instances, for example, color television, where we're ahead of you. But in order for both of us to benefit,
they didn't even know it was on.
You just rolled.
They didn't know they were rolling. Everything was already started before they came in the studio. So that's why Khruschev just kept talking. He was talking before he arrived, while he was arriving, and having arrived.
Wow.
Now, at some point, they stopped. And when they stopped, their associates gathered around. The control room door was right there. I opened it, I came out. I said to Khruschev, his interpreter was at his side, I said, would you like to see what you said in color? He had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. Now, there have been many, many stories over the years about what happened then. The thing is, we all knew, everybody knew, that we had to get that tape out of the country right away. There was a 2 o'clock plane that afternoon. This was around 12 noon. There was a 2 o'clock plane that afternoon. This one particular guy from one of our contributing companies was going to be on that plane. He was out. The call went to Bobby Sarnoff, who was the president of NBC, and a great guy, did a great job. He put it all together. He called the other two networks.
Wow.
That night, 2:30 that afternoon in Moscow, Khrushchev's committee, all commandants, came back to the studio. We knew them quite well. And they said, Mike, we want the tape. We want the tape. Did you hear what Khruschev said? I want the Americans to know, people to know. I had no idea what he said. I said, that's where it is. Well, they were furious, but then I said, I'll make another tape for you. I made a tape for them to give to Russian television, to be on Russian television that night. So in essence, that 2.5 minutes was on the air in the Soviet Union and in the US of A and heavens knows where else. That's simultaneously. It was all the same showing.
You must not be afraid of ideas.
So, in the end, the Russians weren't upset that it got out because they wanted to show their people that Khrushchev could talk to Nixon and Nixon could talk to Khrushchev.
Right. It was what we call a virtual draw.
Did you realize how important a part of history this would be?
I realized that it was going to be important, but I would hesitate to say that I knew how important it was going to be. It was a life changer for me.
Right.
Changed my entire life.
You won your first Emmy for it?
Well, yes, but the thing is that the whole thing took on a dimension. I never felt more patriotic. It was, I couldn't believe it was going on. These are world leaders. And here we are, taping them on the sly and slipping it out of the country.
It's 60 years later. As you look back on this, what do you think? What's your overall opinion?
Wow. It is 60 years later, and the world has changed, but on the other hand, people are basically the same. I think the Russian people themselves are a wonderful nation of people. They were very kind to both Dorothy and myself. They were very kind to our American crew. If anything, I have tremendous respect for them, as I do respect our own country. I think that's important. And I can't imagine anybody thinking that that was not a turning point in both of our relationships.
And you were part of history.
Really?